welcome to the Vantage Point Podcast, or should I say welcome back? Mel, thanks so much for joining
Yeah,
me today. First of all, how are you?
not too bad. Thanks for having me back. Long time coming. We've been joking about this for a while, so I'm happy it's finally happening.
On your TikTok, you talk about relationships, dating scenarios, how these can affect your mental health. I've noticed you've just surpassed 10 million likes, which is pretty impressive. What do you think it is about you that makes people relate to you so much?
Dating in this day and age, no one's straightforward. It has massive, massive impacts on people and how they perceive themselves, how they think, and stuff like that. So, girls, especially, that's majority of my following, see me and other creators and stuff posting things like that. They kind of start to understand that, like, it is normal what they're going through and it's not necessarily just them. I feel like my content creates like a safe space for people where they can go and, like, if they are feeling like that, they can kind of like find other people that are going through similar things. And I actually think it brings people together a little bit more, which is quite nice, to be honest.
Dating something we can all relate to, like everyone has some sort of experience like that.
Yeah.
I think it was refreshing just seeing someone being so honest and upfront about it.
I don't really see the point in like hiding things. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of my TikTok isn't something that I'm necessarily going through like in that moment, which I think a lot of people think it is. But I've got 300 drafts. I've got drafts from 18 months ago that I've not posted yet and stuff like that. So last year I was in effectively a relationship for 6 months. I was still posting breakup content, single content, relationship content, and all stuff like this. Everyone thought I was single. I just kept my actual relationship offline. And I think it confuses people sometimes. But yeah, it's one of those really.
Do you find it easier to talk about stuff having processed it, as in afterwards, kind of reflecting on it and being like, okay, this is how I felt about that thing, rather than trying to explain it when you're in the moment?
Definitely. I think speaking about things like as they're happening and stuff like that, like you don't always have time to process your thoughts, your emotions, and like everything behind it. So, my last breakup and stuff like that, like it took me a while to get over. We broke up in mid-November, and it's only just been recently that I've started posting like a lot of the drafts and things that I filmed like during that breakup. I've come to peace with it. He's come to peace with it. We are very good friends. Like, I've had a catch up with him recently and stuff. So, like, I think it's definitely better to process what you're feeling rather than going on a massive rant on the internet to then think in 6 months' time, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, which I have done previously. So I've kind of learnt my lesson, really.
Do you ever find it therapeutic to share some of the experiences you've had and then find people who comment that they've had similar experiences?
Definitely. It's quite nice to see like people saying it's like, yeah, I've had a similar experience. I've done X, Y, and Z to help me get through that. And I'm then like, oh wow, maybe that's something that I can do. Hate to say that I have posted one few too many videos of me crying on the internet, but they've done surprisingly well. I think one video that I posted, I think it was Mental Health Awareness Month or something like that. It was videos of me crying, and I think it got something like 300K views. And I just kind of sat there, I was like, wow, right, okay. But obviously, because of the content about it, it was basically a video of me crying, being like, it's like, oh, I didn't know that you suffered with your mental health. So it was clips of me crying and then being like, well, why would you? Because in the public eye, like, I'm happy as anything. And I find that especially relevant as of recent because last August I was signed off work for mental health. I was not in a good way. I literally spent about 5 months in a mass depression. I'm posting content. I'm happy as Larry. I'm posting on Instagram. I'm acting like absolutely it's nothing is going on. And it's only really like people within my circle that knew exactly what was happening with me. So to then open up like 5 months later or something like that to be like, it's okay, everyone goes through this, but it's given me that time to be like, right, okay, I am actually okay now. For people then to be like, I didn't know you were going through that, like you're so inspiring, the fact that you've like made it through and everything like that, it is very like rewarding. Not in the case that I'm getting anything out of it, but like I'm inspiring people to open up more, which is massive for me, really.
If you can take one thing that's maybe a positive about the bad experiences you've had, it's that you can make other people feel better about the bad experiences they've had. It's kind of a ripple effect because you can kind of use your following in that way.
Definitely.
For other TikTok creators, you mentioned you had a lot of videos sitting in your drafts. Is there not a part of you that just wants to get those videos out there, just see how well they would do? What's your approach to that?
Yes and no. There are drafts in there that I've got that are like 2 years in the making or something like that. So it's when I went through like a really rough time and stuff like that. And I've just not kind of reached the point where I feel like I'm at my peak again. So I don't want to film it and finish it. I film a lot of similar content. There is a lot to do with breakups, and then sometimes I'll mix a bit of mental health, best friend stuff, things like that. I switch it up every now and again. And I think majority of my content is breakup, but I don't then want to post like 8 breakup videos all at once. I don't want that to be the whole thing that I film. So I try and space it out a little bit. It also depends on what's finished, what's not. So a lot of them are like transitions where I filmed the before part and then I've not gone anywhere to film the after part, or I forget to finish recording, which is a lot of the time. I actually started filming a transition in Athens on my balcony, which I was meant to finish. I'm now back home and I never finished it. So that's going to have to be scrapped, really, unfortunately. There's definitely a lot of content in there that I'm excited to get out and I'm excited to put out into the world and stuff like that. But it's just finding the right times to post to make it not look like I'm going through that in that specific moment, really. I don't know. It's deciding when to post something is a bit conflicting sometimes, because I'm like, oh, I might as well just post it. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, but I've just posted something that looks exactly like that video, so I need to wait a few weeks. But yeah.
I suppose it doesn't matter if it's necessarily what you're going through right now, if it's something that still holds a positive message that perhaps your followers could take something from. In case there's people watching who've watched your TikTok content and thought, oh, well, how does she grow like a TikTok audience like that? What's some advice you could give to people looking to expand their audience?
Originally, when my account started growing, I think a lot of it was to do with hashtags that I was using and things as well, the sounds that I was using. Compared to now, I don't write a caption, I don't use hashtags, I don't even use the location button. I just kind of post it and hope for the best. Sometimes it does really well, sometimes it doesn't. A couple of my videos, especially within the last month or so, have hit like over 1 million and stuff like that again, which I'm quite happy about. I think it really just depends. I think consistency is key, really. Like, if you want to start posting and you want to start growing on TikTok, don't post one video and be done with it, because that's not how it's going to work. You need to keep posting. So I try and post between 3 and 5 videos a day at different times of the day, different areas. Like, a lot of my followers are from the States. So for me, it means that I need to post later in the evening in order for it to get on their For You pages, because otherwise I'm never going to see those American followers again. TikTok will tell you exactly when is a good time for your specific followers to post. Like, I can look at everything like that on my analytics and stuff like that. 9 p.m., for example, is a very popular time for my followers to be active, probably because majority of them are in the States. So if I post at 9 p.m., normally my videos do quite well overnight. And then I wake up the next day and I've got like 10K views. And I'm like, wow, brilliant. Okay, lovely.
It's interesting thinking about the American audience. I've always thought if I post a TikTok around 2 p.m., it would be just in time for younger people to finish school and then people my own age to have finished work around 5 p.m. to have all had a chance to see it, and then maybe people in America to see it later on. I find TikTok is a weird one because I'll share a reel and a TikTok at the same time. The reel seems to do better long term, but the TikTok will do better in the first hour that I share it. So I think the timing on TikTok is more important. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't actually post that many Instagram reels, mainly because I don't really know how many of my followers would be interested in that. My following on TikTok is definitely a lot bigger compared to my Instagram following. I find that TikTok is kind of like the baseline for things. So like, they'll go from TikTok, they'll then go to Instagram reels, and then eventually make it onto the Facebook version of it now, which is bizarre. Instagram overall, it's definitely going to be better longer term. Like you said, I don't really think TikTok is like, don't get me wrong, sometimes I have videos pop up on my For You page that have been on TikTok for like 6 months, but I'm like, why am I just seeing this now? Why is it choosing to come up now? It's a bit weird, really. I don't fully know how the TikTok algorithm works. I would love to find out fully, to be honest. I'd love to know.
We messaged a little bit before this, and you mentioned you were still thinking of using YouTube, but to a lesser extent. Do you feel like YouTube's harder to break into these days?
So much harder. I think with YouTube, it's very, very niche. And like, I feel like if you wanted to be established on YouTube, you needed to start like 6 years ago. Don't get me wrong, from watching YouTubers, I think overall YouTube is a better platform to attempt to grow on. But in terms of actually growing on it, so difficult, especially for my kind of content. Like, I can't post breakup and situationship content on YouTube. I could do it on YouTube Shorts. How much reach that's going to get, I don't know. But in terms of like actual videos, I don't see too many people wanting to click on my get readies with me's, my like I've got vlogs from Athens and stuff like that, which I'm in the process of editing. But the only people who are going to be interested in that are my Instagram followers. I don't necessarily think my TikTok followers are going to go from TikTok to YouTube to go and watch something, because their TikTok is the whole point of it is short form videos. I will rarely sit there and watch a video that is longer than 45 seconds unless I'm really invested.
Last time you were on this podcast, you were kind enough to educate me on situationships. What's your advice for guys to understand maybe when a relationship is turning into a situationship and how they could prevent that?
So my last relationship, it wasn't a proper relationship. Realistically, it was a situationship. We were together for 6 months. The first 3 months of dating, absolute bliss, honeymoon phase and everything like that. And then all of a sudden something just started switching. Like it kind of went from being a potential relationship to, well, I don't really know what I want anymore. And it just got very confusing. And it wasn't until October-ish time that we kind of sat down and he was like, I'm not ready to fully commit to this, so I don't know where I want this to go anymore. Okay, fine. We ended up splitting up a month later, but at least we started to have a conversation about it rather than him just be like, no, we're done. We sat down, we had so many different conversations about it. We communicated a lot about where we were and kind of like what we wanted, where our heads were at and stuff like that, which is a lot better compared to situationships I've had in the past where I've just had nothing, absolutely nothing. And then just one day it's like, I don't want to see you anymore. Just tell me what you want. If you don't want a relationship with me, fine. If that's what I want and you don't, tell me so I can disappear and find someone that does want that with me. Guys of this generation are confusing and I still don't know how to navigate them, really. I don't think I ever will.
I think you'd probably agree with me that communication tends to be the reason a lot of modern relationships break down. What do you think we could do during a relationship to improve communication so that this doesn't happen?
Because of things from my past and past dating, past things to do with family and stuff like that, I tend not to communicate very well. And that's just entirely on me. Like, that's nothing to do with him. That's nothing to do with like our situation. It's just the fact that personally, I feel like if I communicate how I feel, he's not going to like it. He's going to get upset with me. And that's just from what I've had when I've dated people in the past. So I tend to bottle things up. Not a healthy way to do it. Don't do it, guys. Just tell them how you feel. I'm not going to push you. Like, if you want to tell me, then that's absolutely fine. Like, I'll sit here, I'll listen to you. Like, it's completely up to you. And that is probably something that I definitely need. Like, I need the reassurance. I need if you want to tell me what's going on, then like I'm here for you. But at the same time, I'm not going to force you into telling me. And I just think opening that door and having that little bit of reassurance is what someone needs to then start opening up and to start actually saying, it's like, well, actually, you've done X, Y, and Z, and I'm overthinking it and I don't know how to process this. So then you can sit down together and be like, right, okay, well, I didn't mean to say this in this manner or something. It's just going to make your whole relationship so much more healthier compared to, like me, bottle things up, self-sabotage, decide that you want to distance yourself because you're upset about something when realistically I'm just overthinking in my nice little head about something that doesn't actually matter. But because I won't open up and communicate that, he has no idea what he's done. So he actually followed a girl on Instagram a couple of weeks ago and I got really upset about it. And I actually said to him walking around the shops, I was like, I'm fuming at you, He was like, why? And I was like, I'm not going to tell you, you've got to work it out for yourself. And he just kind of sat there and he was like, what? And I did say to him, like, actually, that wasn't fair. I am sorry. Don't worry. I'm just overthinking something. And then he did sit there and he messaged me later on that evening being like, I'm really sorry if I've upset you. Like, I didn't mean to. If you want to tell me what I've done, I will. Like, I'll explain what's happened and stuff like that. And I just kind of sat there. I was like, no, don't worry. I'm just being stupid. I try and say to someone that I'm annoyed at them, but I don't want to tell them why I'm annoyed at them.
You were clearly unhappy with something he did, but then you felt bad that you were unhappy with him because in theory it's quite a normal thing to do to follow someone, but it did make you feel a certain way. So then you feel an obligation to be honest about it, but then you don't want to be so honest, it's off-putting and you cause some sort of friction that doesn't need to be there.
I just don't want to come across as a psycho, really. I'm a little bit like, realistically, it's not that deep. I've been cheated on in the past. It's like, it's not fully public knowledge because it was never fully confirmed. But from what I can gather from the situation, I was cheated on. He would basically lie to me about where he was going because we were doing long distance. And when I would call him out on it, he would get very, oh, right, okay, well, like he would get very like not consistent with his story after that. So a lot of my friends were like, yeah, I think I've seen him with a girl, like I think I've seen X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, right, okay. So effectively he's cheating on me because I'm 4 hours away. So because of that, like if I then feel like there's potentially someone else, I then get a little bit paranoid, not because I actually think that that's happening, but because I sit there and I'm like, well, this has happened before, so who's to say it can't happen again? So it's just me being a little bit paranoid. It's not necessarily actually happening. Realistically, I'm just overthinking in my nice little head, to be honest.
Maybe this applies to my current situation. I just think it's important to get yourself to where you want to be first before thinking about attracting people with the same energy, because otherwise you won't attract someone you're likely to stick around with long term.
When you're comfortable with yourself and you've kind of started achieving all of the goals and things that you want, the person that you're going to be with, like you're naturally going to find them. Me, on the other hand, I don't mind being single, but I definitely thrive more in a relationship. I thrive more when I'm with someone and I'm happy and I'm settled. I've got a very short attention span. So when I find someone that I click with and that I get along really, really well with, and we do start dating, for me, it's like I might as well be a wife now, to be honest. As much as I enjoy being settled, I find it really hard to settle with a particular person. And I think that that is probably because I've not done as much growing as a person as I need to. But I find that I can grow while I'm dating someone. Like I can go off and I can be independent. I can do all the things that I want to do. Like I've just got back from a solo trip to Athens. I had a whale of a time. If you asked me a year ago, Mel, are you going to go on holiday on your own? I'd be like, absolutely not. That sounds terrifying. I had so much fun. I got to go around, do things that I wanted to do. But I definitely think work on yourself to the point where you are happy completely and entirely on your own. And then when you've reached that point, you'll be at like an all-time high and you'll be like peak of your life. And then the person you're meant to be with, they'll just pop up out of nowhere. Like genuinely, they'll just appear. And then, well, that's what some people have told me happens. I don't know yet. I've not worked that one out for myself. We'll get there.
How did you find solo traveling on your own? Just for maybe other girls who are scared of traveling solo, or anyone who's scared of traveling on their own because it seems like quite a daunting thing. How was your experience doing it?
I actually loved it. I had so much fun. I genuinely like I had my AirPods in, I was going around museums, I was sightseeing, I was eating amazing food. Like the main thing that I was nervous about was getting through airport security. I don't know why. Airport security freaks me out. Like I always think it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get stopped and like I'm gonna get arrested. I don't know why, because I had no liquids on me. I had literally nothing. It was all in my whole luggage. I had a tiny little rucksack like that that literally had my camera in it and my phone. Realistically, nothing was going to happen. One thing that made me feel a little bit safer, not gonna lie, I felt a bit silly for carrying it around, but my nan got it for me. Bless Linda's soul. She actually got me some alarms to carry around with me. Being in such a massive city where I don't speak the language, granted, everyone spoke English, so that worked out for me. But at one point, I did have a little bit of a creepy encounter where someone literally came up to me and was like, I saw you yesterday at the Acropolis. And I was just kind of stood there, bearing in mind, I'm just down a random street. And they were like, you were taking all those beautiful pictures. Like, you're absolutely stunning. You're exquisite. And I'm not going to lie, in my pocket, I was holding this alarm because I was a little bit freaked out. However, it was absolutely fine. I walked off, phoned a friend. And I think as long as you have your location on for someone, don't just turn it off. Have your location on for friends, family, anything. They'll be able to check up on you, make sure that you're okay. Carry an alarm around you with you if it makes you feel safer. You can get them to put on your keys, keep in your pocket. That's what I did. My nan even got me a hotel alarm as well. I don't think that solo traveling is anything to be afraid of. Don't get me wrong, I was so nervous before I went, but now that I've done it, I would go again, 100%. I think the main thing that people get freaked out about is the plane and flying on their own. Take your AirPods, take some music, listen to an audiobook, go around, see some sights. Make sure that you're keeping in contact with friends and family. Bless my nan, she was texting me 4 times a day, making sure that I was okay. What are you off to go see today? Are you still alive? Yes, Linda, don't worry, I'm okay.
Did you manage to get much use out of dating apps when you were abroad?
I didn't use them. Not while I was away. I'm always quite curious about what guys are like abroad and stuff. Have I dabbled a little bit with Hinge and moving my location? Yes, because it's free, so you can do that. Probably beginning of January, just before I deleted them and stuff. I did move it over to Athens. So I did have a sneaky look and stuff like that about kind of like what guys dating apps and stuff are like out there. But in all honesty, no, I had no use of it while I was out there. But we'll see what happens on the next trip and see if I'm still fully single or not.
What are your thoughts on dating apps in general? Do you think they take some of the mystique, some of the old school kind of traditional a man approaches a woman at the bar type thing? Do you think it takes away some of that, or do you think it's a good thing overall?
100%. I think it takes away so much. I much prefer meeting people in like a genuine way and, like just randomly. For example, me and my ex, we got introduced by a mutual friend in a pub. So it was just so much nicer because we had that sense of we already knew like a little bit about each other because our friends had spoken to us before they'd introduced us and things like that, compared to meeting someone on a dating app. And like they obviously, everyone on dating apps puts out their best selves. Whether I feel like if you meet people in a generic way, like randomly at a pub or in a coffee shop or something like that, one, it's just more real because they're not going to put on an act as much as they probably would on Tinder. There's still a little bit of an act going, but not as much, because if you meet them while they're with their friends and they start putting on this little act and stuff, they're going to get called out. So they won't. They'll be more of their genuine selves. And I just think it takes off so much more pressure compared to meeting someone on a dating app, like them walking to that date and stuff. Like, personally, for me, when I go on a date from a dating app, I am literally a ball of anxiety because I am low key sat there thinking, oh my God, what if this person's a catfish, or what if they're going to murder me? So it's one of those, really. I try and FaceTime people actually. Before I meet them, I try and have a phone call with them, or I try and FaceTime them or something, just so I know that they're actually real and I'm not going to die.
Yeah, that's smart.
But
That's
yeah,
smart.
dating apps, like, they're most of the time, part of my language, I don't know what I can and can't say on YouTube. They're looking for a shag. That's what they want, like with guys and stuff. And they'll play it on the dating apps like they want more and they're actually interested in getting to know you. But the second that they've got that, they're gone. And I can tell you that now because I've seen friends go through it. I went through it like in the past and stuff like that. Now I'm a lot more reserved. I have rules and stuff for like dating and things like that because I don't want to get messed around anymore. I'm not looking for a husband, but I'm not opposed to it either. But yeah, it's just one of those where if a guy's on a dating app, chances they're looking for one particular thing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I'd like to vouch for the male population and say that probably most people would go into it thinking, okay, maybe I could find the one here, but there's so many options, and it's like, how do you even choose based on what people are putting out when half of them are being fake? And also, you don't get a proper
true.
read off people in that, and it does become very transactional. It's like, well, okay, it's going well with this one person, but I know for a fact they're probably talking to 50 other people, so what's the point almost?
It's not even just that. So speaking from experience of like looking at guys dating apps and stuff like that, they don't get as many matches as girls do. I don't know what it is. I don't know if as women we're just fussy, which, do you know what, makes sense, because in every other animal species, and this is my degree coming out in me, in every other animal species, it is the women that have the final say. And they will look for the strongest men in like birds and stuff. A lot of the time, they will go for the most colourful animal, well, male and stuff like that. And overall, the women have the final say over what male subject they want to father their children effectively. So it's quite interesting to then see that on the flip side in humans. And, you know, personally for me, I had Hinge for maybe 2 weeks. I had 85 matches. Fair play. I look at guys dating apps and stuff like that, and they'll have like 7. They won't have as many. And I think that that just highlights that even more because we are the picky ones. We are the ones that are like, well, we're thinking realistically, we've got a biological clock that we need to think about and stuff. So for people who maybe want kids and whatever, are like, oh, I don't know if I want to have kids with that person. So it's quite interesting to see that from the animal kingdom to real life. And that's reflective in dating apps. Me, I'm quite fussy about who I swipe on, realistically. If you've got a type, you're obviously going to swipe for your type. Men, I feel like sometimes just swipe on everyone, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a man. What's your input on dating apps? Come on.
I don't use them. I tell you why, because I'm very much, in the same vein of thought as you. I think it's so much more genuine when you get to meet people in person first. And I think if you meet people on a dating
Yeah.
app, it's like a mutually understood agreement from the start. It's like we're both doing the same thing here. We both have 50 other options. So this probably isn't serious. I'm fortunate enough to be in social situations where I get to meet people. If I'm going to meet someone, it's probably going to be just through the stuff I'm doing day to day. When I go to the gym, for example, other people at the gym have similar interests to me. Or if I'm going hiking, other people who come hiking have similar interests to me. So I'm more likely to meet people through these things that, we both have shared interest in.
I think that that's what I miss sometimes. Like, personally, for me, my job, I don't have that. I work within an educational setting, so I don't really talk about my job all that much just because of the background of my job. Like, I work with under 18s and stuff like that, so it's not always appropriate for me to talk about my job. But it means that when I'm at my job and stuff like that, I go to different locations. So the only people I'm really interacting with are students. But because I also manage events and stuff on the side, so I've got like two job roles. So when I'm managing events and stuff like that, I work directly with all of my colleagues and I'm like, well, you're married, you're 10 years older than me and stuff like that. So I think for me, it's really, really hard to meet someone just like genuinely because I am working basically all of the time. If I'm not working, I'll be with the girls and we'll be, having like chill nights and stuff like that. Like compared to last year when I was going out, 3 weekends a month, I would meet people and it would be like a mutually exclusive thing where like we would meet, we would chat and stuff like that. And it'd be quite nice because we would find common ground while we were out. We'd find, people that we both knew and could bond over and like similar interests and stuff like that. And I find that now that I've turned 24, literally just over a week ago, like I just don't have that need and want to be going out all the time and stuff like that. I'm like, I genuinely cannot think of anything that I want to do worse at the moment. And I'm just a bit like, I'd rather just sit at home and be in my own little bubble. But at the same time, I'm then like, but how am I ever going to meet someone? Like, if things don't pan out with the person that I'm seeing, it's like, I'm gonna have to interact with the male species again, and I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. Because how do you meet someone in a generic way when you don't really like go out? I've seen guys that I fancy in my gym. I am not ballsy enough to go up to them and start a conversation with them. I won't do it.
The gym's a weird one, right? Because most people are just in the gym to train. If a connection happens in the gym, it's because you're maybe doing the same exercise or you're training together and you've been training together for a while because you have similar training goals. And that's how you build a connection there. When I see these people on like social media who it's almost like they're going to the gym to meet someone, it's just annoying. It's like, most people are there just because they want to work, they want to work in silence. And it's like they've got their headphones in. It's a clear indicator. Do not talk to me.
Please leave
But
me alone.
yeah, definitely. I'm sure you've sort of experienced that yourself. You train. It must be annoying when
Yeah.
people interrupt your set because they're trying to push their agenda. So yeah, it can be awkward in these social settings to know when's the right time to say something, when's the wrong time. That brings me back to the dating apps. Say now I was a guy trying to slide in the DMs, right? What's the do or don'ts there? What do I say to come across genuine or funny rather than coming across as creepy?
Are we talking like you sliding in on a dating app or talking about sliding in just messaging me in my DMs?
Well, a friend of mine, we roast him for being on a lot of these dating apps and getting constantly rejected every time he tries to slide in the DMs. And then he shows us the DMs and it's like I'm trying to be really casual, but it doesn't come across that way. It sounds like super artificial. What sort of language would work for you that would make you think, okay, this is a genuine person trying to find a connection?
I don't know. So, for example, he messaged me first, as he should. My bio said something like, I'll buy you a drink if you can keep me interested for more than 4 days. Fairs. Like I said, I've got a short attention span. So sometimes it will be, I will text you for like 2 days and then I'll be like, I don't want to text you for like 3 weeks and then never meet you. So I'm just going to stop texting you. So he basically slid into my DMs. I don't even have the app, so I can't even find the messages, but something along the lines of, oh, well, if you're going to get the drinks, like, I'm going to get the bowling, like, challenge accepted and stuff like that. And then I was like, right, okay, he's got a bit of confidence here, like, fair play to the boy, like, all right, let's go. And we just started texting like back and forth and stuff like that. And he was immediately like, so when am I booking this bowling for? And I just messaged him being like, oh no, he asked me what hobbies I had. So he was like to me, it's like, oh, what do you like to do like outside of work and things? And I just sent him my number and I was like, well, why don't you text me and find out? And he did. He texted me basically straight away and just started going off with his hobbies. He was like to me, it's like, yeah, so these are my hobbies. Like, what do you like to do? And I was like, right, okay, lovely. So yeah, I think it's just one of those. My number one tip is get off the dating app as quick as bloody possible. I hate messaging on Tinder. I hate messaging on Hinge. It's just not for me. I don't like giving my phone number out to everyone, obviously. So if I give my phone number, that means I think something that is actually going to happen. If I'm thinking I'm going to text you for a few days and then probably get bored, I'll just follow you on Instagram.
It's interesting. I think with social media, you can find out so much more about people straight away and build more of a connection. It almost makes the dating apps kind of irrelevant because as soon as you find someone on a dating app, you're immediately going to try and check out their social media anyway, right? So it's like why not cut out the middleman and just pack in the dating apps and just use social media if you're
Yeah.
gonna communicate online.
So I actually tried to do that. So after I got his number, it obviously came up with his surname. So what did I try and do? Find him on absolutely everything possible. I found his Facebook. I found his Instagram. His Instagram was private, so I couldn't even look at it. I was fuming. I don't have Twitter, so I didn't try and find him on that or anything like that. But I found out so much information about him before we'd even actually like met. And I found it so funny as well because we'd FaceTimed, like I told him that I had TikTok and whatnot because I was like, I don't want you to just randomly find it one day and be like, what the hell? We'd been on a date and then at the weekend we were going on our second one. So we went for like a midweek date and then we were going on another one. And I was, just browsing through my Instagram views and like things like that because I check who views my Instagram stories because I like to work out who's following me, who's not, are non-followers looking at my profile and things like that. And he was looking at my story and I was a bit like, right, okay, you don't follow me here. He'd been playing a rugby match. So when I saw him like a week later, I called him out on it. I was like to him, it's like, so why have you in my story? And he was like to me, it's like, I was really hoping you wouldn't notice that. It's like, no. I did. I 100% did. And I roasted you to all my friends. And he even said to me there and then, it's like, yeah, well, I told my friends that I'd started seeing someone. They wanted to know who you were. So I obviously started showing them your profile. I was like, to him, I was like, so how early on did you look me up on social media? It was like, as soon as I got your number. Why? I can't say much because I did the exact same. But it's one of those where, like, as soon as you've got someone's full name, you're going to look them up. So dating apps do then just completely become irrelevant because anything that's on that dating app, you don't need to know anymore because chances are it's a crappy little bio that means absolutely nothing. And they'll have like two hobbies in there on the little hobby thing that you can select. And then when you start going through their social media, you're going to find out like 10 times more information about them compared to the very small, brief bit that you're going to get on a dating app. So I agree with you. Cut out dating apps and just slide into someone's DMs. It's so much easier.
And if that doesn't work, then a couple flame emojis doesn't hurt either.
I actually get that a lot, I get a lot of boys trying to slide into my DMs. I was actually looking at a couple before the podcast today, and I just find it absolutely mad. Like, I've got an insane amount of message requests, and sometimes I just don't understand it. Like, there'll be just complete random men that I have no idea who they are. Like, I had someone message me last night, evening Mel, are you okay? Kiss, kiss, kiss. I don't know who this person is. Like, absolutely none. I've got flame emojis. I've got smiley face with love hearts around them. I've got more flame emojis, like unreal amount of flame emojis on like random stories that I'll post. I get high. I get people swiping up to my stories being like, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." I'm like, "Thank you so much, but I'm never going to text you back." So I don't really know why you're trying. I've got people reacting with like a shocked facial expression, like and I'm like, it's not going to work, guys. It's just not going to. You're like 50 years old and you've got a wife in your profile picture, so you need to get in the bin, to be honest.
It's almost like guys are more inclined to do that than girls are. Like, girls will do it, but not as much. You don't see it as much. Like you mentioned earlier, I think you said, "Oh, he made the first move as he should."
As
Why should he? And what would you say to girls who are maybe thinking about, okay, he's not making the first move. How can I make the first move without coming across in a certain way?
it's not necessarily that he should, because I don't mind making the first move. So for example, Bumble used to be my favorite dating app ever because the women had to make the first move. My idea of sliding into someone's DMs is I would send a really shit pickup line and guys would love it. They would melt over it and it'd be brilliant. And I still do that. I will still make the first move. I've got no shame. I will shoot my shot because if you don't shoot your shot, you're never going to know if something's going to happen or not. So why would you not take that risk and then, live in a, oh my God, what if? There's just no point to it. You might as well get it over and done with and see what happens. And I did that not too long ago, and I low-key regretted it because I then did just sit there and I was like, "Oh, I've made an error in judgment here." But at least I shot my shot. Yeah, nothing happened and nothing came of it. But if I didn't do that, I would always kind of sit there and think, "Oh, well, what if I had made a move? What if I had said something?" Instead, I spent about 3 months hinting, and then I finally said something. Whoops. Shoot your shot,
Yeah,
ladies. Just do it.
I like that. I like
Sometimes
that.
it's worth. So with my ex, he made the first move, like his friend introduced us. He, complimented me, whatever. He said something like really, really ballsy because he was like, "I'm going for a walk. I'll be back in half an hour." I was like, "Right, okay. I bet I'm never gonna ever see you again." And he was like, "No, no, you'll definitely see me again." And I was like, "I don't think I will." And he was like, "You're too pretty for me not to come back." And I was like, "Okay, lovely." And he did. And then me being me and me having a short attention span, I actually ghosted him for a week and a half. Whoops. Um, and after that, that was that. I thought I was never going to see him again. Thought like nothing was ever going to happen between us. We didn't even make it to a date. We literally just met in a club. Like that was that. Week and a half later, or something like that, I'm on another night out, same place, same people, everything. And I'm sat in Spoons. I've been to a bottomless brunch, so I've had a fair few cocktails. And I hear someone on the phone with him, and I say to my friend, "It's like, who's that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's such and such." And I'm like, "Right, okay, interesting." I messaged him immediately. I've never gotten my phone out so quickly in my life, and I literally texted him being like, "Hey, you're coming out tonight?" That was that. That was history after that. We were then together for 6 months. So sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's definitely not.
This is what I've been meaning to ask you for my gym bros out there. You mentioned earlier that the woman is attracted to the strongest man, you know? So my gym bros would be asking, is that important? Does a man's strength, does that affect anything in a decision? Or can you be weak and weedy and still get the girl?
So I feel like every single girl, like everyone has different types. For me personally, yeah, I like them on the more athletic side. I like them to be active and stuff like that. I don't like someone who's not motivated. And I think because I quite enjoy going to the gym, I quite enjoy going and working out. Don't get me wrong, I've not been this month and I did not go for most of February. But I like someone who I'm going to be able to go to the gym with. I like someone who's going to be active and it's going to push me to be better as well. It's just having someone who has the same kind of like morals as you, really. Some girls don't like active guys. Some girls would much prefer to have someone that, you know, is a little bit nerdy, plays computer games and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But personally, for me, get me a gym lad. 100%. That's just my type, and it has been for a while, really. Since I started getting into the gym, I find myself more attracted to people that go to the gym. Don't get me wrong, gets to a certain point where if you look like you're on steroids and you're too muscly, I'm a bit like, don't know how I feel about that. So, yeah, I'm a bit particular when it comes to guys and like who I date and things like that and who I'm attracted to, but I like a gym lad.
People think it's superficial if you only like someone because they have, you know, an attractive physique. But to me, I'm seeing the dedication that's put into that. That shows me someone who's got a good work ethic. That's someone who's responsible for themselves, you know? Obviously, this doesn't apply to everyone. There's some people who go to a gym who are the rest of their life is messed up, but it's a good indicator that they have at least one part of their life in check. And it's a good sign that they're going to be healthy for a long time in their life. So if I'm
Yeah.
thinking long-term partner, I'm thinking someone who's healthy now because they're probably still going to be healthy when they're, say, 50 or 60.
Gym is great for physical health, but it's also absolutely amazing for mental health. So if you've got someone that's going to the gym and is staying consistent with it and is going like 4 times a week, then they're not only looking after their bodies, but you know that they're more than likely trying to look after their minds as well, which is another reason why I think I am so attracted to people who have that kind of consistency in their lives. Because even though, yeah, I try and go, I've recently moved gyms, which is now next to my work and not as close to home because I go at lunchtime. So sometimes I can't always get there. But when I am in consistency, it's because I'm looking after my mind rather than my body at the moment. And to find someone that has that same kind of moral and that same kind of like mindset is a massive thing for me because of like just where I'm at in life. I've always been quite blessed with a good figure and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily need to work out. I just don't. People don't come for me in the comments because I get a lot of comments about it sometimes. But it's not something that I find I have to do and I have to maintain because it just kind of comes naturally to me. The whole reason why I go is my mental health. If I go, it makes me feel good about myself, apart from when I can't lift anything. So I've not been in a few weeks, which is what it's going to be over the next couple of weeks, trying to build everything back up and stuff. But yeah, like I said, I want someone that's going to motivate me to be the best version of myself and me to do that with them as well. And whether that's going to the gym together and motivating each other to push ourselves and things like that, or whether it's just them saying to me, it's like, look, if you get to the gym today, like you've taken a step towards, you know, bettering yourself and things like that. It's little things. It's little things.
My ex-girlfriend was a powerlifter, and I was definitely impressed at the time because I was into sort of hypertrophy training, that sort of thing, that someone so small could lift something so heavy. I was like, wow, that must have taken a lot of work. And it was the work ethic side of it and the mental strength that leads you to achieve that. That's what I found attractive. Obviously, other things I found attractive as well, but that was definitely one of the main aspects of it. And I think there's way more than this kind of superficial layer of, oh, okay, this person only likes people who work out because they look a certain way. There's way more to it than that. And you're totally right with the mental health side of things. The best thing you can do for your mental health, eat right, sleep, drink, and train. You know, these are things we were supposed to do back from like the caveman ages. We're supposed to be doing that
Yeah.
stuff. We live too much of a sedentary lifestyle now. We should be doing stuff like that. And if you're not, that is the reason why you feel the way you do.
I have to say, like, I am always tired. It doesn't matter what happens, like, I am always tired. I can sleep for 9 hours and I will be absolutely knackered. And I think that more stems from the fact that I don't always eat right because I'm lazy. Don't come at me. But compared to like last January, so I am actually so sad because when I filmed the first episode that I did with the podcast, I was at my peak. I was eating right. I was gymming 5 times a week. I was doing so much and I was top form. and I was doing absolutely amazing. And then I did my sponsored walk in August and I walked 50 kilometers and thought I was going to die. And then after that, my fitness just kind of slowly decreased because I was just absolutely exhausted because I was walking for like 11 and a half hours. Like it was absolutely insane. I was so tired. I didn't get a single blister though, which I found very impressive. I haven't managed to get my eating back up to standard. I'm trying, but it's not quite working. Where I work really weird hours as well. So before I was working like 8 till 4, not nice hours. Now I work 8:30 till 5. I work an hour away from where I live. So I'm leaving the house at like 7:15. I'm getting back at like 6 p.m. And it's just thrown my whole routine off. And where I do events and stuff like that, my job is so full on, especially over the next 2 weeks. I've got like an event like every other day, which means that my life is just chaos. So I'm not as consistent with eating. So when I get back in, I'm so tired. I'm like, I'm going to have a bowl of cereal and go to bed. I'm not getting as much protein or anything like that. And I'm like, I should really put that little bit more effort in, but I've just not got there yet.
We've not got long left, but before I go, I wanted to pick your brain on Love Island. What's the story there? What's been going on?
Unfortunately, nothing. I did an application last year. I applied. I made a TikTok video about it, blew up a little bit. ITV commented on it. Like I was quite hopeful actually. I unfortunately didn't hear back last year. And I don't know whether that's just because they're doing the whole thing with like all stars and stuff like that. I don't actually really know what kind of direction Love Island is going in now because they did what the winter one, they did the Love Island games, they've done the Love Island All Stars, and I'm a bit like I wanted my chance, guys. But I actually met my ex like a month after filming that, so I think even if they had have come back to me and said, "Yeah, we'd love you on the show," I genuinely think that at that point in time, I was quite loved up. I was very, very happy and stuff like that. So I think I would have turned them down, which is insane to think about. If they approached me now, I can't lie, I would more than likely say yes, 100%. It would just be an amazing opportunity. Like everyone even says that no one actually goes on there to find love. Everyone goes on there for the experience. And I definitely think that that's a reason why I would go on it. Not necessarily to find someone, because not gonna lie, not to toot my own horn, I wouldn't need to go on Love Island to find someone. I just wouldn't. It's more the experience and the potential offering it could have for me that I would much rather have. But there's also other factors that draw me away from wanting to go on it. So, for example, I know that quite a lot of Love Islanders and stuff, after they come out of the villa and things, suffer massively with their mental health and things like that. And I'm not sure how much I would want to jeopardize my mental health by going on it, because you see it all the time. People get a lot of hate, they get hate comments, death threats, things like that. Like it's horrendous. But at the same time, I'm like, I could have thick skin if I wanted it. I choose not to a lot of the time because I'm quite a sensitive person. All of my friends always say I wear my heart on my sleeve and not in my chest. And I always, I'm just so honest with people. Most of the time, sometimes I get a little bit too scared to. Like if someone finds out that I like them, like they will know. And I'm very much like honest when it does eventually come out and things like that. And yeah, overall, I'm just a little bit of a sensitive person. But I don't know. We'll see. Will I apply again? More than likely. So we'll see what happens in the future. I wouldn't say no though.
I would have thought you'd have some kind of idea of at least some of the pressure you'd be under having the TikTok following that you do. I've just recently delved into the realm of TikTok with my personal training account, posting like fitness videos. People can be mean.
Oh, they're
Once you get a few,
brutal.
yeah, it's like once you get a few comments, you look at the person's profile, it's like, okay, that person doesn't actually know what they're talking about. They're just saying what they think will get them a few likes. And it's like, okay, right, I can see what's going on here. I think if it was something that was really accurate, like another fitness professional that was saying, oh, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, and here's why, and it was stuff that I could look at and be like, oh, okay, yeah, they've got a point there. That would really upset me because it would make me reconsider everything I'm doing. But when it's stuff where it's just
Yeah.
criticism for the sake of criticism, I don't particularly care about that. Yeah, have you not developed a bit of a thick skin already from the stuff that you must have had criticism already just from the amount of people that see your TikTok, surely?
So the stamp video in particular, there was a lot of criticism behind that. Primarily on Facebook comments, not even necessarily my TikTok comments, but when the articles got published, it was mainly their kind of comments that are like, oh, well, like she's got no life, or if this was a man, he'd get arrested and stuff like that. And basically called into perspective, like, what would happen if a man did it. Personally, if a guy came up to me and stabbed me in a bar, I'd find it hilarious. Whether that's because I've done it already, I don't know. There was another video as well. So my highest viewed TikTok is me on a train drinking a gin and lemonade out of a can, saying something about, oh, anxious people need to have at least 2 drinks before going out to act like a normal person. And I had loads of people at me in the comments being like, everyone from this generation thinks that they've got anxiety, or calling me an alcoholic. Actually, I had a lot of comments about that. And I'm just kind of sat there and I'm thinking, at this point in time, I was actually in therapy for depression and anxiety. Like that outright, I was in therapy. Um, I have been, like, I'm on antidepressants now, like I don't hide that and everything like that. And I'm like, for people to be calling me out in the comments when you know nothing about my personal life or what I actually go through is mad to me. I had loads of people commenting about my weight on that video and stuff as well, which made me feel so self-conscious after that. And for a little while, I did go into a little bit of a thing of like, oh, maybe I don't like how I am and stuff like that, because I was reading all of these comments. And now I've just learned not to read them. So I literally do not read my TikTok comments or anything unless it's a brand commenting on it, or like an organization. So for example, Durex has commented on one of my TikToks. That was interesting. Tinder has commented on one of my TikToks. One
What did
of the
Jurek say?
clothing brands that I don't remember. I'll find it later and I'll screenshot it and send it to you. But it
Okay,
was
okay.
just like on one of my posts that is like, oh, we're not dating, but we're just friends, but we spend all of our time together. We're talking 24/7. We're sleeping with each other and stuff like that. It's like, what are we? It's like, no, but we're just friends, because at the time that's what I was going through with my ex. We claimed that we were just friends, but we're still kind of seeing each other. It was a bit confusing. And Durex Canada had commented on it recently, and I'm like, that's insane to me. That's so funny. Tinder commented on one of my TikToks where I'm basically saying, it's like, oh, when I'm debating bringing someone from the past back, like for the plot and whatever, like when I'm debating hitting up my ex or something like that. And Tinder basically commented on my video being like, don't do it. So I replied to them being like, maybe I should just download Tinder. So apart from that, unless I'm there replying to like a brand or like something like that, I tend not to read my TikTok comments, because I'd rather protect my peace, to be fair.
It might be 1% of those people that actually have something negative to say, and the rest of the 99% will have positive things to say. So, for example, on your TikToks, I've looked through your comments before and thought, wow, some of these are really negative, but then the majority are really positive. So I go and look at some of the people in my industry who are the best in my industry, right? Who've got millions of followers and who I look up to in terms of content creation, and look at their comments. They've got the same ratio of some of the top comments saying super negative things, the majority
Yeah.
of the rest of them saying really, really positive things, but it's not really reflective of what most people's opinions are. Just look at the like count. You've hit 10 million likes. That's 10 million people who maybe haven't left a comment, but who like what you're saying.
It's insane to think about sometimes. Like when I realized last night that I'd hit it, I think I screenshot it and I sent it to my best friend Georgia, and she was like to me, it's like, you'll be on 15 mil before you know it. Like you're just gonna grow and grow and grow and just carry on like this. And I'm like, yeah, it's quite mad to think about, because this time last year I'd just hit 10K and I'm now on just below 30. I'm on like 27K or something like that. Bearing in mind, I stopped posting on TikTok for like 2, 3 months. So I've grown quite considerably, thinking that a quarter of the year I wasn't posting because I was in such a rut with myself. So to think that I've still managed to grow, like I've grown by like 7K in 4 months, maybe three, something like that. Like I've grown quite a lot, and I just keep posting and I just keep making content because I'm like, do you know what? Screw what people think, it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's a mentality you've got to have. Now, Mel, before we go, what are some things you've got coming up this year?
Do you know what? I've actually got quite a lot going on this year. I'm feeling a little bit stressed about it, to be honest. I'm off to go and see Taylor Swift this year. I cannot wait. I'm seeing her opening night in London. That's going to be amazing. I'm going to my first ever festival this year, which is going to be brilliant. I'm going to Boardmasters. I've got a lot of things planned with friends and a lot of girly things and stuff like that. I've got like bottomless brunches booked and things. In terms of everything else, I desperately need to start training again. I am planning on something very big coming in 2026. So still a little while away, but I need to start prepping for it now, really. Yeah, I don't know. I think this year is definitely going to be focusing on me doing what makes me happy and things like that, focusing on my friends, my girls and stuff, because last year where I was struggling a lot, I kind of shut a lot of people out, especially from kind of late August onwards. I shut basically everyone out and I didn't really want to go out. I didn't really want to do much. I was very much closed off from the world, basically. So now that I'm back, like, and I feel so much better in myself and with everyone around me and stuff, I want to prioritize spending time with friends and doing everything that we love together so that I can just continue to flourish and hopefully find myself a little bit more than what I have. And yeah, I want to grow as a person this year.
Any hints on the 2026 thing?
It's going to be another fundraiser. Um,
Okay.
so very similar to the walk that I did last year, but hopefully in a bigger capacity. I haven't quite decided what it's going to be yet, but 2026 is the 10-year anniversary of my mum passing, so I'm gonna try and do something absolutely insane to raise money for it. So fingers crossed. I don't fully know what that's going to be, but it's going to be bigger than 50K. So if I'm alive by the end of it, who knows, to be honest, because I nearly wasn't after 50K.
Just on the Taylor Swift thing, what do you think about the rumors of Taylor Swift recently being kind of planted everywhere? She's been at the Super Bowl, she's in a Disney Plus show at the moment. What do you think about the theories that she's like a government plant, that she's going to be the messenger of all the things the government wants you to hear?
I
What
mean,
do you think to all that?
I'm not sure how much I'm not sure how much I think of it in that kind of aspect. This is really funny to me because I've actually got a Taylor Swift birthday card on behind me. I don't necessarily think it's that. I think like overall, like she is one of the most influential women on the planet. Like everything that she's doing is absolutely insane. Like I'm sorry, but she is selling out stadiums everywhere. Like she performed somewhere that I think it was in Melbourne or Sydney, where it was like 90,000 people. Like that's insane. And it was a sold out concert. In terms of her being at the Super Bowl and everything, she's there to support her boyfriend. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Loads of people are giving her hate for this. Just let her support Travis Kelce for crying out loud. Loads of people were saying it's like, oh, like stop showing Taylor Swift on the big screen at the Super Bowl. They showed her for something like 53 seconds out of the whole game and all of the press coverage. 53 seconds. And people are kicking off about it, which is insane to me. She definitely is someone that can get across so many messages to so many people because let's face it, primarily women listen to her realistically. Men seem to hate her and they need to get their heads out their asses because she's doing more than they ever could. For people who say that all of her songs are about breakups, they're not listening to her songs, they're not actually listening to her music because it's so much more than that. Yes, there are elements of her songs, and there are certain songs that are breakup songs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not just that. She's explaining and writing about what it feels like to fall in love. And honestly, sometimes I listen to those songs and I sit there and I'm like, wow, I cannot wait until I feel how this song makes me feel with a person. I could sit there and listen to her all day. Honestly, if she told me to buy something, I probably would, to be honest. I know that a lot of people are really upset with her at the moment because she's releasing 5 different bonus tracks on different records. And loads of people are saying it's like, oh, like this is just a money scam, like she's just doing it to get more money and stuff like that. It's like, if she wants to do that to get more money, leave her be. You don't have to buy it, but the hardcore fans will. Like, that's the thing. It's like the people who love Taylor Swift and have been with her through on this whole journey and stuff like that that she's gone through, they will put the money in. They will do everything that they can because she does so much for her fans. People don't realize it, but she does. She does a lot for her fans. She does a lot for the people that work for her. I don't know if you saw this, but she gave every single person on her crew that's doing the Eras tour with her, she gave them like 100 grand bonuses. Sorry, sign me up. How can I work for Taylor Swift? Like, genuinely. Because that was for like 50 staff members. Like, imagine just 100 grand being deposited into your bank account because your employer wants to show how much they appreciate you and the work that you're doing for them. That's mental to me. Absolutely mental. My employer would never give me that. I'm paid like bare minimum and I do so much work, but I would never get 100 grand bonus.
I'm not super in that circle, but I can see the impact that she's having and, fair play. But yeah, Mel, we've got to end it there. Thanks again so much for joining me today on Vantage Point.
Thanks for having me. It's mad. We've been filming for 2 hours.
Don't tell him that. This is probably going to be a 40-minute episode.